morning, everyone. I'm Alisha, and LaCrystal and I would like to thank you all for joining us for this discussion on resiliency. Uh, we want this to be as interactive as possible, so if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We will try to answer questions as we go along, and we'll also save time at the end to take questions. So, first, what is resilience? Go ahead and put that in the chat. What do you think resilience is, or how do you define resilience? Okay, so we see overcoming, the ability to bend and not break, overcoming obstacles, right? All of those are great examples, the ability to bounce back after taking a hit. Okay, so resilience is defined as the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or other significant sources of stress. With the way things are in the world right now, it's natural for us to have some internal feelings about what's going on. On top of COVID and all of its variants, we recently experienced a hurricane here in Louisiana that left a lot of people without power for weeks. And because so many of our students are now taking online classes, being without power and internet access puts you behind on your classwork and only adds to the amount of frustration you're already feeling. Many people are experiencing increased sadness, worry, fear, anger, and just all around frustration because it's as if we have no control over what's going on in our lives right now. So here are some common changes that many of us might be experiencing right now. If you have a different one, you can put it in the chat. Changes in routine is one that many people still struggle with today, mostly because we have that pre-pandemic nostalgia, right? We keep wanting things to go back to the way things were before COVID happened, instead of accepting that things have changed and normal is going to look a bit different from the way it used to. I don't know about any of you, but I have a difficult time remembering my face mask when I leave my house, when I get in the car, or even when I leave my office. So, the face mask is a big one for me. And I know a lot of people still struggle with whether or not they want to wear it or not. Many people's employment situations look a lot different, from changes in work procedures to decreased work hours to working from home. Things are different, and they may not ever go back to the way they were before this happened, but being able to adjust to those changes is very important. For some people, the fear of school and daycares being safe enough to send your kids to is a major change. And also, there are so many restrictions on the activities that we enjoyed doing before the pandemic started, like going to the gym and having social gatherings. And now your traveling and vacations are restricted because you have to get tested or make sure you have the vaccine if you want to travel. So there's a lot of things that we have to adjust to. Virtual classes has been one of the biggest adjustments for our students. What I hear most often from students is, I don't do well with online classes, but they're also afraid to be in the classroom because of health reasons or for, personal reasons. They have that fear of returning to school and being in the classroom. For a person who feels like they learn better in a classroom, the idea of having fully online classes can result in a lot of fear and worry about if they can actually be successful, which is an understandable fear. Losing a loved one in general is already a really hard situation. It causes a lot of emotions, but to experience the death when you're already going through a lot, it can cause a more serious impact to your daily functioning. So here's a comic I found by Lunchtime Comics. It's found on Facebook if you want to check out some of his other work. But the comic strip gives a depiction of some of the uncertainty we may have in our own experiences. In the frames, you can see that they're talking about the fear of the schools closing, the safety about attending summer camp or going on vacations. They're also discussing the anxiety about going back to the office or just trying to figure things out as they come. And, you know, a lot of us have been waiting for the next thing to happen, and trying to see how we're going to get across those obstacles. There are so many parts of our new normal that can be scary. It can be frustrating, and it can be very uncertain. And even though you may feel like you are alone in these situations, there are so many people who have similar experiences, and it's important to explore all of those feelings. Okay. What we have been noticing lately in our office is that students feel like they are under an intense amount of stress. Stress has the ability to affect many different areas of our lives, not just mentally. Stress can affect physical health, it can affect our relationships, it can affect our overall ability to function throughout the day. So right now, people who may respond more strongly to stress include people who are at higher risk of severe illness from COVID, children and teens because they've lost a sense of structure, people caring for family members, frontline workers such as healthcare providers and first responders. They're so overworked right now. Essential workers who work in the food industry, people who have mental health conditions or issues with substance abuse, people who may have changes to their employment, such as losing their jobs or having reduced work hours, and so much so that they can't cover their bills. People who have disabilities, people who live alone or in more isolated areas, people of color, because people of color are being the group that is most affected by things that are happening in the world today. Um, People who don't have access to information in their primary language. That can be very confusing and concerning for people who can't keep up with the information because it's not in their primary language. People experiencing homelessness, and people who live in group settings like nursing homes. So as you can see from this list, the people who are at a higher risk for stress can be any one of us. We can all probably find ourselves somewhere on this list. So it's important that we become more aware of what we need so we can find ways to help ourselves.
So what is mental illness? So mental illness is defined as a wide range of conditions that affect our mood, our thinking, and our behavior. And so this is usually associated with distress or problems functioning in school, family, or work or family activities. And so as humans, we are sociable by nature. So social media or media can play a big part in our mental illness. So to succeed in life, we require the company of others, and the strength of our bonds has a significant influence on our mental health and happiness. So being socially linked to people may help us cope with stressful situations or worry or depression. It can enhance our self-esteem. It can give us comfort and joy, and to help us prevent loneliness. But also on the other hand, it can have a negative influence as well. So the lack of strong social ties might put a damper on our emotional health. So you can definitely put those things in danger. So two of the most common issues associated with mental illness in today is anxiety and depression. And so there are a range of symptoms, a range of severity, and Alisha and I will go over those as well. So the process of discovering healthy methods to cope with adversity and hardship is known as resilience. And so everybody's experience is different. I remember there's when we were we're still going through it, but with COVID and the pandemic, they were saying like we're all in the same storm, but everybody's in a different boat. You know, some people enjoyed being at home, isolated, and some people who were more sociable did not enjoy that. And so everybody's experience is different. And so, but there are many evidence-based strategies that can help a person build their resilience. All right, so I'll go over anxiety. And so anxiety is the feeling of fear or worry, which most people experience occasionally. Stress and anxiety is not necessarily a bad thing. So if we didn't experience some level of anxiety, we might not be motivated to do the things that we need to do. So you heard Professor Nero mention that Alisha and I are both in school. You know, if I have an assignment due, sometimes I get a little anxious about it, but that anxiety helps me or keeps me motivated to make sure that I accomplish those things that need to get done. So anxiety disorders are the most common mental illness in the United States, and it affects about 40 million adults aged 18 and over. Anxiety disorders are highly treatable, but not many people receive treatment. And one of the most common reasons of that is the stigma associated with mental illness. So thankfully, I think the stigma related to mental illness is decreasing, but we still have a ways to go with that. And so depending on the severity, some symptoms may include being on edge and highly sensitive to your surroundings. And so that's known as hypervigilance, just being irritable or restless, lack of concentration, racing thoughts or unwanted thoughts, easily fatigued, have a difficult time falling asleep or staying asleep, a chronic headache, sweating, irregular heartbeat, chest tightness, or gastrointestinal symptoms. And so although everyone experiences stress and anxiety to some degree, it's time to seek professional help when. And so so before I get to that, on the right side, you see that there's an anxiety scale. And so it ranges from minimal to debilitating. And so when debilitating means it impairs like your function. And so whether it's your work or your relationships, so it interferes with your personal or professional relationships, creates persistent sleep issues, affects your ability to concentrate, stops you from doing the things you enjoy most, fosters a sense of self-loathing or a feeling of worthlessness and hopelessness. So feeling like things won't get better, isolates you from others and causes you to have suicidal thoughts. But most importantly, we want to go over some tips to help you build resiliency. And so the first is to stay connected. So building strong, positive relationship with loved ones and friends can provide you with needed support and acceptance in good and bad times. So establish other important connections by volunteering or joining a spiritual community. Make every day meaningful. So do something that gives you a sense of accomplishment and purpose every day. Set goals to help you look forward to the future with meaning. So I know at the end of every year, I try to do a vision board, but I think it's also important to like do vision boards or some type of exercise like that, like periodically throughout the year, so that you could kind of scale where you are with your goals. And if you met them, maybe add another one. Learn from experiences. So think of how you've coped with hardships in the past. So consider the skills and strategies that have helped you through difficult times. You might even write about past experiences in a journal to help you identify positive and negative behavior patterns and guide your future behavior. It's really important to also remain hopeful. We can't change the past, but we can always look forward to the future. And so accepting and even anticipating change makes it easier to adapt and view new challenges with less anxiety. I know typically I hate talking in front of people, but I always agree to do it because I want to be a person that's able to, speak in front of people. And so each time I feel like my anxiety gets, it lessens. Take care of yourself. So tend to your own needs and feelings, participate in activities and hobbies that you enjoy doing, include physical activity in your daily routine, make sure you get plenty of sleep, eat a healthy diet, practice stress management and relaxation techniques. And some of those might include yoga, meditation, guided imagery, or deep breathing or prayer. Being proactive. So don't ignore your feelings. Instead, figure out what needs to be done, make a plan, and then follow, and take action. So although it can take time to recover from setbacks or a traumatic event or loss, know that the situation can improve if you continuously work at it.
So depression is another mental illness that results from increased levels of stress and feeling out of control of your emotions. I know a lot of people try to label themselves as depressed because they may feel unhappy with the way their life is going, but sadness does not always mean that you have a mental illness. Sadness is a naturally occurring emotion when you're faced with things that are not in your favor. When the feeling of sadness becomes prolonged and affecting all areas of your life, then you would need to consider if it's depression or if it's time for you to get help. Major depressive disorder is a common mental health disorder that affects how we feel, how we think, and how we act. Depression causes a person to experience severe sadness and then lose interest in the activities that they used to enjoy. Depression does not discriminate. It affects people of all ages, all backgrounds, all socioeconomic classes. Like I know in the media today, there's a lot of talk about the athletes in the Olympic during the Olympics dealing with their mental health issues, and which is what Crystal said about reducing the stigma. The more people talk about it, the more people become aware of what issues they're experiencing. So, warning signs of depression. First, about 30% of college students suffer from depression, but I'm sure this percentage is a bit higher because many people have difficulty identifying what they are experiencing or if what they're experiencing could possibly be a symptom of depression. Some warning signs of depression include being easily irritable and frustrated, which you might start snapping at people or just being on edge. Thoughts of harming yourself, thinking about death or wanting to die, even if it's passively, like, if I wasn't here, I'll be okay. Those are some warning signs that let you know you might be falling into a more depressed category. Anxiety or anger that doesn't go away, not enjoying activities or being around your friends or your partners like you used to, decreased sex drive, and focusing too much on negative things. In college students, depression looks like grade slipping or participating in risky behavior like binge drinking or doing drugs. So it's important to be aware of your depression, or if you're having a depression symptoms, if it's prolonged and lasting for months on end and you're not getting any relief, and or you can't identify triggers to your sadness, then it might be time for you to seek some assistance to talk to someone about your depression. So building reliance to depression. So how do you do this? How do you build, I'm sorry, not reliance, resilience. How do you build resilience to depression? Again, resilience is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. And research indicates that it may be possible to combat depression by strengthening our resilience. Even though we experience the same setbacks that others do, people who are more resilient have a better response to challenges and are more optimistic rather than being threatened or feeling defeated by depression symptoms. So, some common things we can do to build resilience to depression is to find a new hobby to keep yourself occupied or distracted from the feelings of depression. Hang with friends and family because isolating yourself does not help. It also is important to remember that you have good qualities to offer the world and those around you. So you shouldn't take away that from the people who love you. Like those qualities that you possess could possibly help someone else. Also, try to eliminate negative self-talk and replace it with something more positive. You need to be your own cheerleader. You need to tell yourself that you can do it. You need to tell yourself that you can get out of bed. You need to tell yourself that you're a good person. Setting goals is also very important because it gives you something to strive for. You have something to look forward to. This is especially important for students or people who have suicidal thoughts or feel like they don't want to be here. And most importantly, talk to others about how you feel, whether it's a therapist, a friend, or a family member. Just know that you don't have to do it alone, and there are people out there to assist you or be there for you when you need them.
All right, so this summit is related to resilience. So I'm going to give you more more skills and tools that you can use to help with building resilience. So these sets of topics are related to self-care. And so one of the key ways to build resilience is to focus on self-care. Taking care of yourself, writes the American Psychological Association, helps to keep your mind and body primed to deal with situations that require resilience. So here are 6 ways to take care of yourself to help build your resilience. So the first is pay attention to your physical self-care. Make exercise a priority. So this is especially important during challenging times. So try to get about 30 minutes of exercise daily. And so this is one that I often use. I feel like it's a good coping skill to deal with emotions and also help build your resilience. Follow a healthy diet. So avoid junk food and fast food. And I know it's easier, like when we're busy and when, life is crazy, it's easier to stick to fast food and junk food, but limit how much of you intake with that. Limit how much alcohol you drink because alcohol is a depressant. So over time, it also depletes your energy and resilience. Follow good sleep practices. So establish a good bedtime routine and try to stick to it. And it can be as simple as listening to music, drinking a cup of herbal tea, turning off your electronic devices about an hour before you go to bed, which I know that can be hard because we live in a world of electronics and stuff. And so I know usually when I wake up, I grab my phone, before I go to bed. That's the first thing the last thing that I'm looking at, which isn't great. Or taking a bath and then turning out the lights at the same time each night. So try not to watch programs or shows that are too disturbing or too stimulating, as it may then be difficult to turn off your brain. And also try not to unload what's on your mind before you go to bed. Reframe how you view problems and challenges, reframe a difficult experience. So reframing means changing the way you think or talk to yourself about a stressful event. So instead of saying, I will never get through this, try saying something more positive and realistic, like I will get through this by using the techniques that I've used when I've had difficult experiences in the past. And this can include asking others for help or finding strength within your community or, work or church or whatever that might be. Remember that stressful events usually provide opportunities to learn and grow. So try to identify these so that they can help you in the future. For example, if you're dealing with significant financial concerns, try to understand the things that contributed to that situation. And so in the future, you can try to avoid making those same mistakes. So for example, that might be trying to create a budget or having fewer credit cards or, trying not to carry over a balance. All right, building your emotional resilience. So learn from others who are role models of resilience. So think about the people that you know and you admire that you think are resilient, whether they are public figures or people you may know in your personal or work life. What are some of the strategies you've noticed that they use to stay strong through adversity? Think about how you could adapt and could use some of those same strategies in your own life. This too shall pass. So this is one of my favorites. I try to say it, through if I'm dealing with a difficult experience or something like that, just to remind myself, like, this is temporary, this too shall pass. And so try to see that your situation is temporary. So no matter how difficult it is, it won't always be that way. Life tends to ebb and flow in ways that are impossible to predict. So this way, this view can help you gain perspective and maintain momentum as you work through that circumstance. Try to avoid catastrophic thinking. So during times of uncertainty, we often try to fill in the blanks. We may wonder, what if this happens? What if this happens? And then a lot of the times we imagine worst case scenarios. And many times those things don't even happen. So I think it's important to kind of stay in the moment and be mindful of what we tell ourselves. Give yourself a break from media. When a national or world event is dominating the news, over exposure can help you feel anxious, and it may help you feel, it may push you to feel like out of control. And so many media worthy events can be presented in an exaggerated or false manner to attract attention. And so it's really important to unplug for part of the day from all sources. So whether it's social media and then the news. So I typically don't watch the news at all. I get my news from whatever sources, my coworker or a family member might text, because I know that just all the things that I see builds up my anxiety. So I'm not going to even put myself in a position for that to happen. And then I often take like social media breaks, like I've been on one right now for 7 months. So, just unplug at times. Unplug to reconnect, or disconnect to reconnect is a good little quote that I use with that. But keep your life simple. Simplifying your life is especially difficult or especially important during difficult times. So plan simple meals, resist signing up for too many things or overcommitting yourself. So don't be afraid to say no. Make time for simple pleasures. So watching the sunset, playing with your animals, sitting and drinking a good cup of tea. So I know the weather, I think that was last week, it was pretty good. Hopefully we have some other cool days where you can just kind of relax. Practice relaxation techniques. So deep breathing, meditation, mindfulness, and yoga are 4 widely used techniques that help improve mental and physical well-being. And so adopting tips like these and taking care of yourself will help you build your resilience. All right, so sometimes a person doesn't know when they need help. So here are a few reasons that some of our clients seek services. So something traumatic happened and it has impaired their functioning with work or school or relationships. You've lost something or someone important to you. And so when we think about loss, it doesn't necessarily have to be a person. So, it could be a job, it could be a lifestyle, a stage of life. And so sometimes people have a hard time adapting and adjusting to that. If you're abusing drugs, alcohol, or food to cope with what's going on, your quality of life has reduced over the past few months or weeks. The problem takes up considerable time and you're rearranging life to accommodate the issue. So these are some signs that you may need to seek some additional support. And some people, I think, so stigma is one reason people don't seek services. Just like not having the information is another reason. Like they don't know where to go to help, to get help. They don't know who to ask. So, simply you can ask around social media, family member, whoever you feel comfortable asking, searching online, consulting with insurance providers or health providers. I know insurance can send a list of facilities or people who are covered under the insurance. And then I know primary care physicians, sometimes they refer out as well. Hospitals have mental health services, colleges and universities have mental health services, and offer outpatient mental health and psychiatric services. So sometimes a person needs therapy, just somebody to talk to process issues. Sometimes a person needs medication, so it just kind of depends on what's going on and how that person is able to cope. And so if a person needs immediate help, here are some options. So of course, calling 911 or going to the nearest emergency room. There's a national suicide prevention line. And I know a lot of places do texting now. So if a person doesn't feel comfortable calling, there is a number that they can text to receive services that way. The number for the domestic violence hotline, the sexual assault hotline, and a veterans crisis line. So take a picture of those numbers and save them in case you need them or someone who may need them. And if you need referrals for like some outpatient places, we also have a list of that. And I'll put the counseling email address in the chat box and you guys can shoot an email. And we can also put the link. So the students receive counseling and disability services free of charge from our department. And there's a referral form that the student needs to fill out. And we can also put that in the chat box. And that is our presentation. So if anyone has any questions. You're welcome. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in.
Thank you.
Well, if you have any questions that you may want to ask or that you thought about and you didn't want to share publicly, please send us an email, Counseling Disability Services. We have Crystal put the email in the chat. Just email counseling@mybrcc.edu. Our number is 225-216-8643. And if you would like to schedule an appointment to speak with a counselor about whatever it is that you're going through, and it's not always, it's not that you have to be suffering from a mental illness or from a depression or severe anxiety. It could be just primary stressors that you're experiencing in your daily life, trying to manage work, school, and your children all at the same time. Sometimes you need an extra support or just another ear to listen to you. So if any of you are interested in counseling services with BRCC, like Crystal said, it's free to all students enrolled, and we are available for you.
Hello, my name is Phil Smith, Vice Chancellor for Advancement and Executive Director of BRCC Foundation. I want to thank you for joining us today, and for more information, visit www.brccf.org. And remember, dreams do come true.